What's up, Giga fam? It is time for the long-range primary tier list update for Call of Duty Warzone. The Season 5 balance pass just hit, and with it, a ton of changes. I have had a few days to test all these guns that we're going to talk about, dropping plenty of 20s and 30s, solo versus quad clutches with them. I feel very comfortable talking about them. I've also analyzed the data over on truegamedata.com. And so I have a really good picture of what the meta is, how other guns stack up to the meta, so you guys know what to run if you're trying to be optimal. I also can give you guys a bunch of guns that are really strong and compete with the meta so that you can mix it up and have fun. That's the most important thing at the end of the day. For my tier list, it's pretty simple. S tier is your meta, most efficient tactic available, the best of the best. There's only going to be a couple of them. The A tier is going to be top tier guns that can compete with the meta. B tier is really solid guns, but they have some weaknesses that hold them back compared to the meta. If you're a skilled player, you can still dominate with the B tier guns. You can probably still dominate with any gun, but it just kind of shows where it ranks. The C tier is going to be viable guns, and a lot of them might seem strong, but you got to keep in mind there's been power creep in this game, okay? The new gun we're going to talk about is far and away statistically and like in your hands just blows these guns out of the water. So, you know, it makes them hard to use, but you know, they're viable. You can still do okay with them, especially in like public lobbies. If you're going to go into iridescent top 250 ranked with them though, you're going to get absolutely zapped by the meta. So just keep that in mind as we go through and rank these. So let's just get into it. I kind of set up like a very bare bones, just a couple examples of the tiers A through C. We got the SVA 545. The max damage range was buffed by about 7 meters without attachments, which is a substantial buff. This thing would be meta. Because it already was basically neck and neck meta with the Holger 26, and then they buffed it while nerfing the Holger 26. So, but the new gun we're going to talk about blows it out of the water. Okay, so SVA 545 though, we all know it's in microburst. It's virtually no recoil. It rips until it starts hitting those damage fall-offs at long range. But now they buffed the max damage range, so now you're going to have a more substantial effective damage range on it. So it's a great gun. I have a 40 bomb on my channel from this season, so obviously it is a wonderful gun. Okay, I think it sets a good standard for A tier. B tier, pull 'em yacht. You know, this gun was meta for a long time. We all know how great it is. Okay. It really didn't change much from when it was meta. The thing is, there's just been power creep in the game, right? Other guns have entered the picture that are substantially better. But we know how strong it is. I think it sets a good template for what our B tier should represent, which is a solid, competitive, fun-to-use gun with some defined strengths and some defined weaknesses. Basically, a gun that's well balanced, which they seem to struggle with. Okay, C tier, probably the best two Modern Warfare 2 long-range primaries are going to be the STB-556 and the TR-76 Geist. They just suffer from, you know, some of those relics from Modern Warfare 2 / Warzone 2, where there's visual obfuscation. Just the Modern Warfare 3 guns tend to feel a lot better. While on paper, they're probably closer to like a B tier. I think those attributes hold them back, but they're fun to use. They're good. If you're a content creator and you get like a used Modern Warfare 2 guns sub challenge or something, you can throw these on and dominate. They're still good. But let's start cranking out these other guns. BP50. What was untouched in the update, but I feel like it's a slept-on gun. Okay, this thing has really low recoil, really great TTKs. The only thing that probably holds it back is just its damage per mag. But if you're running solos, or if you run in a very coordinated squad where you don't need to fight multiple targets, you're just really kind of depended on to win your ones, I think the BP50 can be a great option. I think it's easily B tier. The TAC Evo is my baby. Anybody that's been around the channel for a while knows I love this thing. People don't realize that, yes, the TTKs at long range are quite bad, but recoil is king at those 50+ meter ranges. And within 50 meters, it actually is a very good TTK. So TAC Evo is awesome. It got a small buff. I don't really think it changes much, but you know, a small buff never hurts. I love this thing. It's a beast. I think, especially if a player struggles with recoil, definitely give it a shot. And even for someone who's, you know, talented at the game, the TAC Evo is monstrous for picking enemy players off of head glitches, mid and even out to long range, okay? Because it has virtually no recoil. And that's a very important gunfight that will win you games. Much more so than like 100 meters away, just sort of like getting holds, right? And even then, like I said, the recoil will carry you through some of those gunfights. So I think TAC Evo is easily, you know, top of B tier, probably fringe A tier. The MCW, they keep buffing this thing. They keep nudging it toward meta. And I love this gun. I dropped tons of MGBs with it after I farmed Interstellar on Modern Warfare 3. Just a beautifully designed gun. I love it. Feels good in my hands. As we're going to see, even after all these buffs that they've done over time, still a pea shooter at range, okay? And there's other options that have similar recoil and just hit way harder. So it's hard to justify giving this thing any better than a B tier, even after all the buffs. SOA Subverter, probably the best battle rifle. Battle rifles are not in a very good spot right now. Most of them are pretty bad or at least mediocre. The Subverter, though, is interesting. I think that if you are a skilled player and you master it, you can win a majority of your gunfights. They introduced a gun to the game, which we're going to talk about, which basically makes it pointless to master a gun like this because you get the same or better TTKs while having almost no recoil. But I think that gun's going to get nerfed, and there will be a more compelling reason to run Subverter, which is, hey, you master it, you can dominate. It adds a fun skill gap to your long-range fights. I still think it is a cut below some of these B tier guns just because the juice isn't really worth the squeeze. It's a lot of extra recoil for not a ton better TTK. So we're going to put this at the top of C tier. The Holger 5.56 is a gun that is very solid. I thought it was next up. It is so good. However, it's held back by its bullet velocity. It seems to have a lower base bullet velocity than other similar ARs. So you kind of get caught in this, like, do you run iron sights? And the iron sights aren't like beautiful, especially when the gun has a decent amount of recoil. Not a ton, but enough that the iron sights are tough to run. Or you're going to end up with either, you know, a substantial amount of recoil, or you're going to have to sacrifice bullet velocity. But outside of those weaknesses, I think Holger 5.56 is very good. So we are going to put it at the top of B tier for now. I may consider moving it up to A tier depending on how things shake out. The Ball 27 got a huge buff, and the TTKs were already very compelling. The thing is, its damage falls off after the first 4 bullets, so it shoots faster out of the gate and then slows down. So if you're not super accurate, your TTKs are going to suffer. But the recoil is very manageable now. It does have really good TTKs. It's got a 60 mag. Super fun to use. You know, even after the recoil buffs, though, I still would not describe it as like a laser beam. Like there's guns like the SVA, the new gun that we're going to talk about, which have way better recoil still. But you can really fry some people, especially mid-range. So it's got a lot going for it. I would still put it B tier, though. I would put it at the top of B tier. Oh, this Eradicator got probably the biggest buff of any gun that was changed in the patch. The minimum damage was taken from 24 to 28. For those of you that don't know what minimum damage means, it means the damage after its last damage fall off. Okay? So after all the fall offs have occurred over range, that's the amount of damage it will deal out to infinity, right? So like with this gun, you know, if the last damage fall off is, you know, say 40, 50, 60 meters, after that fall off, we're going to see in the TTK charts, it beats everything, okay? So if you're someone who likes to play for holds, likes to challenge people at longer ranges, likes to shoot people out of the sky, the TTK Eradicator is probably the best automatic gun in the game. It's got some weird properties. The first 7 to 12 shots, I'm not sure where exactly the fire rate dips, but basically it's another gun where the first shots come out faster and then it slows down. But if you just get into a rhythm with it, you can almost kind of like burst fire it, or even just kind of, if they're super long range away, maybe you kind of want the fire rate to dip a little bit. Don't overthink it. Just get in a nice flow with it as you use it over time. So like a lot of times what I'll do is, say a target is on a head glitch, I'll send over a volley or two. If they kind of reposition, I'll let go of the trigger, you know, predict where they're going to pop up, start shooting again. Maybe if they really start moving quickly side to side, or if they're like falling out of their parachute, maybe I won't keep bursting them. Maybe I'll let the fire rate fall off. So you can kind of get in like a nice flow with it. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is that sometimes it will play to your advantage, right? Because not every gunfight is going to just be, you know, like the Revolutionary War, we line up and shoot at each other, you know, rock'em sock'em robot style. Sometimes people are going to bob and weave and chow, re-chow. And so sometimes that front-loaded damage is actually going to play to your advantage, and you are going to just dominate. So I adore this gun. If it wasn't for the new gun, this would be like the next in line for like an absolute meta gun. I love it. Easy A tier. I would say it's top of A tier. I would say it's better than the SVA, even after the SVA's buff. It's just the TTK Eradicator's buff was massive, and the gun was decent before, but that buff really just launched it. So you gotta try. The other thing, beautiful iron sight, so it gives you an extra attachment to play with. If you want to, you can run high velo on this thing and get like over 1,300 meters per second bullet velocity, which is just mind-boggling. Another thing that's great about it. Or on the contrary, you can still have like 1,100 meters per second bullet velocity, which is more than enough, better than just about anything on this list, and then you just get an extra recoil attachment. So it's a wonderful gun. I love it. One of my favorites. Definitely give it a try if you haven't already. MTZ 556 got a huge buff. Okay, a huge buff. 10 meters added to one of its mid damage ranges. So I think it's now for your gunfights 50 to 60 meters, which is an important damage range. You're gonna hit a lot harder. And it already hits hard basically at all ranges. It starts to get a little bit hard to control at super long range, but I think that's one of those sweet spot ranges, especially on like big map, where it's going to make this thing a lot more effective. We're talking fringe A tier here. Maybe, I mean, easily top of B tier though. Easily top of B tier. MTZ 556 is awesome. I love it. Definitely give it a try. Small map. I mean, you're gonna run the show. If it wasn't for the new gun. We're getting a theme here, but we're going to talk about that one. The superi 46 is actually really interesting. If you build it as like a long-range primary, you can really dominate, especially on small map. It's got great recoil, great iron sights. You can even get the bullet velocity up to like around 900 meters per second, which is not bad, while still having very controllable recoil. I honestly, I mean, it's a strange build because it's an SMG, but you'll end up with crazy ADS times for a long-range primary, crazy mobility for a long-range primary. So I think it's another one of those really fun, but also really strong options that I think you guys should give a try. I would just throw it somewhere kind of in the middle of B tier. Really good. Bruin MK9 is not very good anymore, unfortunately. They nerfed it. There was a small buff this patch, but it doesn't really move the needle at all. So we're gonna put it like bottom of C tier. Still, it's somewhat viable. I mean, it's an LMG. You can, you know, go Rambo style, just lay it down, dump rounds down range, but it's not the best anymore. I want to do snipers last. The DG58 has some of the best recoil properties in the game. There's a blueprint for it that is basically like see-through, which gives you arguably the best sight picture, even including optics in the game, where basically you'll have an extra attachment and an unreal sight picture. But the TTKs are just completely outclassed now. I would put it, it's kind of the opposite of the Subverter, just brain dead easy to use, but you don't really get much out of it. Whereas the Subverter is quite hard to use, but once you master it, it's very good. So I think those are kind of like opposite sides of the coin, and we'll put them both in C tier. That works nicely. Getting into the the main usable kind of one-shot snipers, we got a couple with infinite one-shot range, okay, but they're obviously cumbersome to use. If you go MRS, I would say, if you're going to justify using it, I would say go the charge up barrel and hard scope that bitch, okay? 1500 meters per second bullet velocity, basically hit scan out to hundreds of meters. Just put the crosshair on their forehead and give out some free haircuts. One shot out to infinity. Obviously, you're going to be pretty useless in your like final circle fights and some of your team fights, but if you run a good sniper support, you know, you can justify using this, and just that infinite one-shot range with such insane bullet velocity, I mean, we have to put that in A tier. It's incredibly powerful. Guys, my philosophy on snipers, and I abuse them, okay? I use one-shot snipers all the time. If you watch my channel, I love sniping, but snipers were a power weapon in Halo, a respawn shooter, okay? Like, the fact that we can get them in our loadouts in a battle royale where, you know, you potentially have one life, theoretically have one life, it's just nutty. They're so strong. They're such a game changer. It's an incredible power to have. I mean, there's other BRs like Apex where there might only be one one-shot sniper creeping around the map. So the fact that anybody can get access to them, it's very fucking powerful, okay? Make no mistake. The Cat, I think, is out of the infinite one-shot range snipers. You know, it's basically the best, just kind of normal hard scope, kind of in the vein of like the HDR from Warzone 1, where it doesn't really, you know, you don't have to charge it up, so it doesn't have like weird weaknesses. And you know, you actually get 5 rounds, unlike the MRS if you don't go charge up barrel. And unlike the Kar98, it does have an infinite one-shot range. It just is very cumbersome. Okay, it's very cumbersome to use, like the MRS. But maybe a little bit less of like that specialty gun than the MRS. But you also don't have the option of going crazy high bullet velocity. But still A tier, because you can still one-shot people, which is insane. The Kar98 was surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, if you subscribe to the belief that they probably need to sell some more blueprints for it or something, it was completely untouched in the patch. One of the most dominant meta guns we've ever had was completely untouched in the patch, okay? I actually like that they didn't nerf it, because the gun they introduced is so freaking good. I think it's really kind of fun to have that yin and yang of an insanely strong fully automatic AR and an insanely strong sniper. But the Kar98, while it doesn't have infinite one-shot range, just has such good handling, fire rate. It's just so good. If you run my build, you run a smaller optic that doesn't cover the mag well. You can reload the whole mag at the same time, so you can get a lot of bullets down range with that fire rate and reload. So and sometimes it almost feels like a little bit of like a DMR, you know. But you do have a one-shot range out to, like, with attachments, 70-ish meters, And you have really good bullet velocity too. The bullet velocity is almost as strong as the cat's. So I think the Kar 98 is just unbelievable. I think it's still by far the best one-shot sniper in the game. The only reason I think people stopped using it is maybe they got bored of it, or just, you know, they're the new shiny toy. But it is still like an absolute meta gun. The last gun we're going to talk about is the new STG-44 AR. I don't have a little icon made for it, okay? But just know it is beyond S tier. It may be one of the best ARs in the history of Warzone. The thing with the meta, guys, you have to understand, it's not just about, you know, how strong is a gun if I only look at that gun in a vacuum. It's also about how it compares to the other guns, okay? Back in Warzone 1, we had a multitude of super powerful, low recoil, fast TTK, high bullet velocity guns. In this game, it seems like they want to bring back that environment of lots of powerful, fun to use options, but we're not there yet. And so, you know, they added one with this STG, and it just blows all these other guns out of the water. I mean, it kind of renders them obsolete. And I'll show you guys statistically why it is so much better than everything else. But make no mistake, it is far and away the best long-range primary in the game right now. Alright, we're going to have a look at the TTK charts to back up what I'm saying about the STG and the rest of the guns. We're over on truegamedata.com, where I'm a sub. I love this website. Tony, the owner, is a wonderful human being. I have TTK charts set to combination shot locations, not just chest, because unless you have some kind of cheats running, you're not going to only hit chest shots. So combination shot locations just give us a much more realistic TTK picture. And I have the STG and a bunch of the other ARs up, and then we're going to have a look at the STG compared to a bunch of the LMGs, okay? You don't have to, you know, have a master's degree in like any type of data analysis to recognize that one of these things is not like the other. The red line down here is the STG. Completely blows everything out of the water out to 36.8 meters while having virtually no recoil with the right build. If you put on the right attachments, the right barrel, you can extend this out to like 50-ish meters. Now, yes, there is some fall off to the gun, okay? It has damage fall off, but you have to understand recoil is king past 60 plus meters. You're not going to hit all your shots with some of these other guns, okay? And the thing is, even if you could, you can't justify running these other guns because you're going to lose every important gunfight to the STG, okay? Final circle, mid-range head glitches. These are the fights that win games, not you shooting at people up in the sky for fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun to get those kills, but your bread-winning fights are going to be inside 50 meters for the most part. And like I said, you know, even out to its second damage fall off, it still basically beats everything, right? It starts to experience some bad fall off at super long range. I will grant that, but everything inside you will just dominate, and it has such low recoil, incredible handling. I think the meta build has like a 300 millisecond ADS time. By the way, for any of my builds, you can type exclamation point followed by the gun name, such as exclamation point STG, in my Twitch chat, my live stream chat, even when I'm offline, and it will spit out my meta build for it. But this is just insane, man. 600 millisecond TTK, that's like the MCW Conversion Kits TTK. All the way out to almost 50 meters with attachments. Incredible. It's so good. And it has that beautiful 600 RPM, 50 mag, gigantic damage per mag, so you can use it for holds. I mean, at that point, it might as well be like an LMG. I mean, it reloads fast. You're putting tons of hurt downrange. So good. Honestly, nothing else really pops out here. I mean, you know, like I said, MCW has really bad damage fall off still, and it doesn't get a good TTK anywhere. But it's easy to use. It's fun to use. SVA, we can kind of see that some of these ranges have gotten pushed out so that they're a little bit longer than some of the other guns, which is great for the SVA. But yeah, STG, obvious outlier here. It's insane. If I move over to the STG versus the LMGs, you got to keep in mind these handle slower than the STG, okay? And it's a similar theme here. The STG blows them all out of the water out to a very substantial range. But something that we notice here that is fantastic, and I talked about during the tier list, the Eradicator, after every gun has had its damage fall-offs, the Eradicator barely falls off and just dominates, okay? And it has that extra attachment where you're going to be getting better bullet velocity out here. It is the undisputed king at long ranges for fully automatic primaries. I will say, though, at those ranges, I mean, Kar 98s are probably going to be taking your head off. So, but Eradicator, very, 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 very good. If you do challenge an STG at those ranges, past 50 meters, you will dominate them. So that's great. I think in a way, if you're good at controlling your engagement ranges, you play power positions, you're just kind of aware of your limitations. Maybe you control the range where, you know, you're gonna push. You're either gonna push and be in their face with an SMG, or you're gonna be, you know, back a little bit, anchoring with the Eradicator. You can definitely justify running the Eradicator. Brilliant gun. I love it. And just to touch on the Subvert a little bit, because a lot of people like to stand for the gun, and I can kind of explain why it's C tier. I mean, you look at this. The STG pretty much dominates it at every range except for super long range. You know, even if you're hitting every shot, which I don't care who you are, you're not going to hit every shot with the Subverter at 100 meters, okay? And that's the pink line. The STG just dominates it. So why am I going to learn the recoil of a gun that's difficult to use when I can just spray with the STG, hose people down with zero recoil, and still dominate that gun even if they hit every shot against me with it? I mean, it's not a good balance state. These are good TTKs though for the Subverter, but it's just there's no reason to run them with the STG in the picture. Alright, superstars, that's all I got for you with this long-range primary tier list update. In the very near future, I am going to update our close-range tier list. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion. I tried to back it up with as much data and experience as I could, but I'm human. I may have made some mistakes. I may have missed something. If so, let me know down in the comment section. I love getting community feedback on these tier lists, and I definitely will keep them updated for you guys, especially if you enjoy them. So if you're new around here, be sure to sub, like the video, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. I love y'all. Peace.